Hello. I hope you've all bought your tickets for this express train journey around 25 steam railways. This video has been produced at a moderate price with the hope that it will encourage young people to become interested and involved with steam trains, and also give them information of what is available and from where they operate. In the past few years, the interest in steam has increased, and the standard to which both the tracks and the stations have been renovated is extremely pleasing. The locomotives and rolling stock are gleaming examples of Victorian engineering and craftsmanship. They have tremendous power which can move weights in hundreds of tons. The hiss of the steam and the smell of the smoke evokes an atmosphere from the past which creates a sense of excitement for enthusiasts and newcomers alike. Our first stop is the PAIGNTON and Dartmouth Railway, which once played host to through trains from Paddington. One of these was the famous Torbay Express, which still maintains the feel of a summer holiday special. Thousands of people travelled down by God's wonderful railway, as the Great Western was known, to the West Country for their summer holidays. Today's holidaymaker can sample a taste of this feeling as the railway threads its way along the coastline to connect with the Kingsmere Ferry, which has been in existence since 1864. The number 7828 Lyddham Manor, rescued from Barry Scrapyard, can now be seen fully restored to a Great Western livery, and now carries some of the heaviest holiday traffic. You can enjoy the beautiful views along the River Dart. Then the line climbs and goes over a viaduct and through a tunnel to Churston Station. This is a passing place and the highest point of the route. The line was purchased from British Rail with the track in situ in 1972. It commenced running almost immediately and has maintained the atmosphere of the Great Western Railway. Seaton and Colliford electric tramway operates along a 2.5-mile track and 2-foot 9-inch gauge. It starts from Harbour Road, Seaton, and travels to the quaint village of Collerton. It's used by people taking holidays during the season, and its frequency is according to demand. It's only possible to show you a small percentage of the locomotives and rolling stock at the many railways we visit, but it will give you some idea of what to expect, and also enable you to choose the type and gauge which interest you personally, as eventually we all have our own favourites. This typical Southern Railway branch was closed by British Railways in 1972 and the track lifted. In 1976, the Swanage Railway took over the station here at Swanage and began relaying the track. It's at present running passenger trains only as far as Harmon's Cross, but has just completed track laying through Corfe Castle to Wareham, where it'll connect with British Rail main line once again. The M7 tank loco number 30053, seen here, was synonymous with the branch in the 1960s and is a welcome acquisition to the Swanage operating fleet. This particular loco was sold in the late 1960s to America, where it was displayed as a static exhibit for many years. Recently repatriated, it's been restored to full British Rail mainline working condition and has been seen at open days throughout the southeast during 1992. These handsome station buildings were once under the threat of demolition to make way for a car park, but the local residents voted in a referendum to let the Railway Society use the station. The 30075 has been restored and returned to running condition. Purchased from Yugoslavia in December 1990, it's of similar design to the British-built US Transportation Corporation's shunters, known as USA tanks, which ended their lives as dock shunters at Southampton. The Mid-Hants or Watercress line runs 10 miles from Alton to Alresford through part of the Itchen Valley, in whose rivers grow excellent cress. This line has stiff gradients and used to be referred to as over the Alps. Ropley Shed is where we see a Class 25 diesel engine shunting an unrebuilt, bullied Pacific number 34105 Swanage. This is a type used on the best southern region expresses from Waterloo to the south coast. There are two other stations, Ropley and Medstead Foremarks, both of which have been restored. At Ropley there's an elevated picnic area from which you can observe the comings and goings of both station and sheds. A bargain return ticket gives you the freedom of the railway for an entire day. On Sundays and bank holidays in summer, a restaurant car is attached. The Bluebell Railway is one of the best known, as it's been used in several films. It has excellent standards of locomotives and rolling stock, with well laid out sheds for enthusiasts to visit. It also has locomotives that are not in steam, and also ones undergoing restoration and maintenance, which makes Sheffield Park a busy station at weekends. This one is for charter, and is being prepared for a wedding. It's a fine locomotive. Many of these huge locos have been brought here by road, as there's no longer a British Rail mainline link, and therefore they have to travel along narrow country lanes. The Bluebell line, being one of the earliest to be preserved, has a large stock of engines, wagons and carriages of many different types. This is one of the principal reasons for visiting, so don't miss it if you're in the area. The Kent and East Sussex Railway is based at Tenterton Town. The line was mostly used for agricultural freight, often known as the Farmers' Line, as it carried hops and fruit until its closure in 1961. It was built by Colonel H.F. Stevens in 1900. It was then known as the Rother Valley Light Railway and traversed the valley of the River Rother. It runs between Tenterton Town and Northiam and calls at Rolvenden and Wittersham stations. There are 14 engines and you may dine aboard in one of its carriages on Sundays. At Tenterton there's a gift shop and a buffet. As well as ordinary British Rail coaching stock, the Kent and East Sussex Railway has several historic passenger coaches and freight wagons, which it runs on special enthusiast days. These take place 2 or 3 times a year. Today we see its 060 industrial saddle tank, named after its founder H.F. Stevens. It's at work with arrivals from Bodiam and Rolvenden, where the locomotive works are situated. The Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Light Railway is not a preserved line. It's given locals and holidaymakers a service since 1927 and is world famous for its beautiful locomotives. The 2 which you see here are only part of the 11 which the railway has for you to see. It carries over 180,000 passengers, including school and charter trains. This track runs between Hythe and Dungeness for 13.5 miles and has its headquarters at New Romney, where there are comprehensive workshops. The line is 15-inch gauge and the locomotives are 1/3 scale. This is a very interesting place to visit. Leighton Buzzard Railway has been in existence for 25 years and was used industrially for a sandpit many years before. This locomotive, 060 DOL, first arrived in 1969 and is now one of the line's regular working steam locomotives at Pages Park. It weighs 8.5 tons, has Stephenson valve gear and 24-inch diameter wheels. It was built in Scotland by Andrew Barclay and Company for use in Sydenham Ironstone Pit in Oxfordshire. Dol eventually moved to Springvale furnaces at Bilston in Staffordshire. Now, after being restored, it's giving good service here. O60 Elf was built near Berlin by Ornstein and Kopel in 1936 for the Lecumber Banana Company in Cameroon. It also saw service at the Tico rubber mill. Elf is a wood burner equipped with a large firebox and spark-arresting chimney. It has a Woolshed valve gear, 20-inch diameter wheels and weighs 9 tons. A very interesting locomotive, and it's worth visiting Leighton Buzzard just to see her. we'll see Challoner in steam later. The Severn Valley Railway is centrally situated in the Midlands, and fans can visit it from a large catchment area. Many motorways lead to it, and it's a worthwhile journey. You'll enjoy their large stock of locomotives, carriages and goods wagons, some of which are often loaned to other railways. They're always on the lookout for volunteers, and if you have a trade or skill, so much the better. Railways have a need for building trades and maintenance, as well as new projects, track laying, signals and restoration of rolling stock. Why not lend a hand for a few weekends a year? I'm sure you won't regret it. This 16-mile-long railway markets itself as Britain's premier line, and it certainly has an impressive fleet of locomotives. The sheds and workshops at Bridgnorth are able to undertake almost any engineering job and often contract heavy repairs for other railways. The line itself runs along the meandering River Severn from Bridgnorth to Kidderminster, where a connection to British Rail allows its locos out onto the main line for limited periods. One of the highlights of the run is the crossing of the River Severn by means of the Victoria Bridge, a massive 200-foot single span which crosses at a high level above the water. "75069 seen here in the yard at Bridgnorth is one of the standard Class 4 locomotives. It was built in the 1950s by British Railways to a design which took the best features of all existing locomotives and combined them to form what is known as a standard design. Most of its locomotive fleet reflects its Great Western origin, but it also has several unique examples of locos from other railways. The West Somerset Railway is the longest privately owned line in the country. It starts at Minehead and ends at Bishop's Leidhard, with 8 stations between. There's a bus link for the short distance to Taunton. The Minehead station is quite large and has extensive sidings and solid Victorian buildings, which are situated close to the promenade. It was a busy line in the 60s with the opening of the Butlins holiday camp, but this was short-lived and closure took place in January 1971. It was reopened as a private line in March 1976. We've now moved along the line to Blue Anchor Station. West Lancashire Light Railway celebrates its 25th anniversary today with a steam gala. It may be a tiny non-profit-making railway run by volunteers, but it attracts tremendous interest. It was started by boys using their pocket money, and their hobby grew and grew. Today we've two visiting engines, Peter Pan and Challoner from Leighton Buzzard. Challoner must be one of the oldest working engines in the country. West Lancashire Light Railways owns engines Montalban and Irish Mail, which have now been restored to pristine condition. Irish Mail was bought in an auction at a Welsh slate quarry. It was built in 1903, but was in very poor condition after spending a life in the quarry, but today it's as good as new. The carriages come from Southport Pier Railway. Hesketh Bank Station is open every Sunday from Easter to October and bank holidays, and the fans arrive for steam rides. If you wish to become involved, they are always looking for new volunteers, and I'm sure you will always be welcome. Come and have a look at this friendly little railway.
How's your fire doing?
narrow gauge fans are in for a treat at the RAVENGLASS and ESKDALE Railway. Their excellent stock of locomotives are 15-inch gauge. RAVENGLASS, which is the main terminal and headquarters, is also where their workshops are and where they maintain and also build locomotives. This is a thriving railway, and many of the millions of visitors to the Lake District have the pleasure of taking a trip on this marvellous little railway and enjoy the magnificent scenery. Everything about this railway, including the trains, seems to be well looked after. It has several steep gradients which make the engines work hard, but on the way down they quickly rattle along.
Right, Dick, if you come round here now. That's it, George.
The RAVENGLASS and ESKDALE Railway has had a checkered career since it opened as a 3-foot gauge line in 1876 to serve iron ore mines in ESKDALE. Within 12 months of it opening, it was bankrupt. The line lay derelict until 1912, when the track was re-gauged to 15 inches. Bassett-Lauk locomotives were used, which proved to be too lightly constructed to stand up to the steep inclines. The railway has passed through 2 more hands before the present ownership. You may start your journey from either end of the line, and there's plenty of car parking space at both ends. The ESKDALE terminus has a picnic area and refreshments. If you continue along the road from here, it takes you over Hard Knot Pass, which is a good walking area and has some of the finest scenery in the country. The HAVERTHWAITE and LAKESIDE is the other railway in the Lake District. Its headquarters are at the HAVERTHWAITE end of the line, with a large yard and sheds where their restoration work takes place, and which you can visit. The original station is also used. They have a good stock of both steam and diesels, and most of the work is done by tank engines, Cumbria being one of them, which is a Hunslet Austerity purchased from the Army. The line has 2 short tunnels and a halt at Newby Bridge. The trains connect with boats at Lakeside Station on Lake Windermere. Your ticket enables you to combine a sail to Ambleside to enjoy the beautiful scenery.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Windermere Iron Steamboat Company, the captain and crew welcome you aboard the MV Swan.
Keighley and Worth Valley Railway has a platform adjoining the British Rail station at Keighley, which is very convenient for people travelling by rail. Platform 4 is leased from British Rail, and you will recognise it by the attractive hanging flower baskets. The line runs from here to Oxenholme, with stations at Ingrow, Damons, Oakworth and Haworth, where the sheds are located. The line climbs continually from Keighley with an average gradient of 1 in 75, and from a short length 1 in 58. Ingrow station is very smart and has been rebuilt. It is a carriage museum in the goods yard. Here at Haworth, the workshops and engine sheds are located. There's an impressive stock of locomotives, both steam and diesel, for you to see. They are well equipped to carry out most restoration work. The North Yorkshire Moors 18-mile-long railway between Pickering and Grosmont is set in the midst of one of Britain's most spectacular national parks, along the track of George Stephenson's original route. It passes through Newtondale Gorge, where it provides the only public access to this beautiful and isolated spot. It has a station which was opened in 1969 for walkers and ramblers, and you may purchase a ticket to stop off at any of the stations en route. Goathland has a passing loop, which enables a more intensive service at busy times of the year. The highlight of the line is the 1 in 49 climb from Grosmont to Goathland, which tests a locomotive to its limits and provides sight and sound unparalleled on a preserved railway. At Grosmont you'll find the engine sheds of the railway, which has 30 steam and diesel locomotives at its disposal. These range from mainline Pacifics to heavy freight ex-War Department locos to smaller tanks. Yorkshire Dales Railway at EMBSAY near Skipton uses industrial 060 engines which are immaculately turned out for its passenger work. It's open on Sundays throughout the year and extra days during July and August and some bank holidays. It has a very good station and yard, several steam and diesel locomotives, and also goods wagons, of which it would be nice to be able to have a closer inspection. It's now over 150 years since trains first ran along the shores of Padon Lake at the foot of Snowdon. Although many things have changed since those days, the views from the line are just as beautiful as ever. Set within the Padon Country Park at LLANBERIS, Gwynedd, on the A4086 Capel-Cyrwig to Carnarvon Road, this great little train of Wales was built on the trackbed of the old Padon Railway, which was originally constructed to carry slates from the huge Dinorwig slate quarries to the sea for shipment all over the world. The Padon Railway closed in 1961, and the quarry itself was wound up in 1969. Some of the engines and equipment used in the quarry were purchased in the final auction, and using this, the LLANBERIS Lake Railway was born. After the removal of dense undergrowth, track was laid along the lakeside route. Coaches were constructed and the locomotives were overhauled. The line was opened to visitors in July 1971. Things have come a long way since those early days. The railway is now one of the major attractions in the Padon Country Park. The old quarry workshops are now the Welsh Slate Museum, and they capture the atmosphere of a bygone age, with its gigantic water wheel and live demonstrations of the quarrymen's skills. There are fascinating craft workshops, a water sports centre, and plenty of room to stretch your legs on the various nature trails and woodland walks. Entry to the Padon Country Park is free, There's ample car and coach parking, a cafeteria, souvenir shop and toilets with disabled access. Whether you only have an hour to spare or are looking for a complete day out, you'll find plenty here for all the family, and all at a very reasonable cost. Pay as a visit, you're sure to receive a warm welcome and have a very enjoyable day out. The Snowdon Mountain Railway is the only rack and pinion railway in the country. It was built in 1890 to carry tourists from LLANBERIS to the summit of Snowdon. It continues to do that to this day, and in summer it's very busy. The unusual steam engines have sloping boilers to cope with the steep incline, which in places is 1 in 5. The high reverse-mounted cylinders and lever linkage drive the wheels and pinions. The engine is always at the lower end of the coach, facing upwards, and is not coupled. The summit is 3,561 feet above sea level, and has splendid views in good weather, but is miserable when shrouded in cloud. The fares are expensive, so pick a good day for your ride. The steam engines are of a Swiss design and manufacture, but there's also a diesel one. On the steep gradients, the engines sound like express trains at speed, but in fact they may only be travelling at 7 miles per hour. The Welsh Highland Railway is often overlooked by enthusiasts. It's situated alongside the main line level crossing as you enter Porthmadog. The FFESTINIOG railway is famous for its variety of different types of locomotives, especially its fairly double-enders. Mountaineer 262 tank engine was built in the USA in 1917 for British military light railways in France, and remained in use there until 1964, when it was brought here. In the busy summer months, there are usually 3 or 4 engines in steam at the same time. They've been converted to oil burners to avoid the risk of sparks setting fire to forestry. Porthmadog station is by the harbour, as it was used for transporting slate for loading onto ships. Here there's usually some activity, and you can watch them watering, fueling or oiling the engines. The line runs to FFESTINIOG and is quite commercialised. Linda is from Penryn Quarry Railway. The FAIRBOURNE Railway has a style all of its own, with 4 2-foot gauge half-scale locomotives. Yeo from the Linton and Barnstaple Railway, Russell and Bedgalert from the North Wales Narrow Gauge Railway, and Sherpa from the Darjeeling Railway. They're immaculate, as you can see, and you may visit the sheds to see the engines not in steam. There's also Lillian Walter, a General Motors diesel as supplied to the Santa Fe Railway. The railway was first pulled by horses and later converted to steam to carry holidaymakers to Penryn Point, where it connects with a ferry to Barmouth. The railway is well worth a visit and has some of the best engines I have seen. The TALYLLYN railway, like the FFESTINIOG, was a slate railway and is also laid out on a continuous gradient. It was used to take slate to the main line here at Towern. The line is shelved into the wooded hillside of the valley. 2 of the locomotives and some of the rolling stock are original and date from when the railway was built. The excellent station at Towern has a railway shop and refreshments. It's a favourite spot for holidaymakers visiting the area. This railway has a very pleasant atmosphere and the staff are very enthusiastic and dress the part. The line is 7.5 miles long with several halts. On arrival at Dolgoch Falls station, you may stop off and visit the falls. The Vale of RHEIDOL railway runs from Aberystwyth to Devil's Bridge, a distance of 11.75 miles. It was the last steam line operated by British Rail and has a narrow gauge line running into the main station at Aberystwyth. There are several tank engines and the Prince of Wales is the oldest of them and it's very smart. The rolling stock is also of good quality with attractive open and closed-sided bogie coaches. The line winds along the shelf cut into the hillside with views of the river below, and traverses side gullies by means of horseshoe curves. There are a number of request halts. The Welshpool railway runs from Raven Square for 7.5 miles to Llanfair. It has a cosmopolitan air with locomotives coming from various parts of the world. Trefaldwyn from Austria having been built for German service during World War II. Some of the coaches are also of Austrian origin. Raven Square is a new station as the railway used to pass through the streets of the town and permission was refused to use this as part of the line. There's a shop, cafe and a waiting room. There are also parking facilities. Llanfair is the headquarters and location of the maintenance sheds, office and railway shop, several static engines and quite an extensive yard. Many people visit here on their way to or returning from their holidays in North Wales. Bala Lake Railway runs alongside the largest natural lake in Wales. It attracts many thousands of tourists who come to enjoy the water sports, many of which use the railway. The track is 4.5 miles long and uses the track bed of the old line, closed under the beaching plans. The old main station is used at Llangollen and the sheds are located there. Several Hunslet locomotives are used, like Holy War, which have been rebuilt. The Llangollen Railway, situated in the picturesque Dee Valley, has an excellent station adjoining the village centre alongside the River Dee. It's the only standard gauge steam railway operating in North Wales, and it's hoped to eventually extend the line to Corwin. Horse-drawn barge strips start at the wharf just above the railway station. It's also the venue of the international musical Eisteddfod. The black and white timbered house of the ladies of Llangollen can be found here, You may stop at the Horseshoe Falls, which is in a beautiful setting and is a source of water for the canal. This is a lovely place for a walk or a picnic, and you can also fish in the river. The line crosses a viaduct over the River Dee here. We've now travelled across the Irish Sea to the Isle of Man, famous for its Victorian railways, both steam and electric. The island has a lot to offer for holiday makers: a beautiful coastline, secluded glens and mountain scenery. The clean sandy beaches, sparkling streams and the air are all unpolluted. If you want excitement, Douglas has nightlife and a casino, and all the usual trappings of a seaside holiday resort. The imposing railway station is your first encounter with one of the best narrow-gauge railways in Britain, and certainly the most original. All the steam locomotives were built for it by Bayer and Peacock of Manchester. The rolling stock is also original, and a reminder of the past as you see them steam through the Manx countryside. There are usually 3 or 4 locomotives in running order, and all are of a similar design, and are ideal for the line, which has many gradients. They are painted red, green and blue. Lock was used in 1874 to open Port Erin line. The trains are not just enjoyable to travel in, but are used as serious transport by holiday visitors. There are stations at Port Soderick, Ballacella, Castletown, Port St Mary and Port Erin, and there are several request halts. The line is a distance of 15 3/8 miles, and there's a small railway museum at Port Erin. Trains pass at BALA station, where you can stop to visit Russian Abbey and Silverdale. Castletown station is only 10 minutes walk from the town centre and Castle Rushen, once the home of the Viking kings of Man. The castle is open most days and is worth a visit. Castletown was once the capital of the island. Horse-drawn trams along the promenade at Douglas give more leisurely transport, which will take us to the electric railway terminus at the northern end of the promenade. There are bargain tickets available for travel on railways and buses, which give good value, as you can see on the sign. The MANX electric railway runs between Douglas, Laxey and Ramsey, with connection to the Snaefell Mountain Railway. It's unique and is still doing what it was built for, and that's giving thousands of tourists a useful service along 17 3/4 miles of scenic coastline. It travels along the edge of cliffs and through lovely countryside. The cars climb the hills with ease. It's a most enjoyable rail journey. Stop at the Laxey terminus and have a cup of coffee under the palm trees and watch the trains go by. You may then join the mountain railway to the summit of Snaefell, the highest mountain on the island. Don't miss Lady Isabella, the giant water wheel. It used to pump water out of the lead mine, but is now a tourist attraction. Enjoy the views from the steam and electric railways, which offer some of the best coastal scenery. You're able to stop off to visit the glens or coastal walks at the many halts along the way. We've now returned to the tram sheds to have a closer look at the hardware. There are open and closed saloons, and some have roller blinds which can be pulled down if it rains. Trailers are also extensively used. Some have longitudinal seating and others transverse. There are several types of bogies, some of which have been modified. Compressed air brakes are used. Maintenance and restoration is carried out here, and the mountain railway cars are brought on trucks for their winter overhaul. The electricity supply is 550 volts DC. 1993 is the centenary year of the electric railway. The mountain railway winds its way up the steep mountainside without the assistance of a rack and pinion. The cars climb gradients of 1 and 12 in places under normal wheel traction. A central rail is provided for braking on the steepest sections. You'll see the horizontal wheels on the bogies, which also prevent derailment. On a clear day, the visitor to the summit is rewarded by panoramic views of the island. You can also see across the Irish Sea to England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. There's a public house at the summit. 2 bow collectors are mounted on the roof of the cab to conduct the current from the overhead wires. They're mounted slightly lower than the central wire supports and lose contact as they pass, but the other one takes over. Bow connectors prevent dewiring in high winds.
The Fort William to Malake railway service started 100 years ago, and today this special train is celebrating its centenary. The chairman of British Rail and several British Rail officials are on board and all seats are booked. It is said to be the most scenic route in the country. Building the railway was a daunting task, as a considerable amount of tunnelling was involved. In places, the track is shelved into the hillsides and it crosses viaducts. Embankments were built and the track winds its way alongside lochs, all of which enable passengers to enjoy the splendid views, many of which cannot be seen in any other way. The steam trains run during the summer months and are a must for any steam enthusiast holidaying in Scotland. There is a break at Glenfinnan which enables passengers to visit the station museum. In places, the engines are pulling hard on the steep gradients, at other times speeding down glens where panoramic views unfold. The steam locomotives are privately owned and lovingly restored to pristine condition. The Strathspey Steam Railway runs 5 miles from Aviemore to Boat of Garton along part of the original route between Perth and Inverness. Here we see the 95-year-old Caledonian locomotive 825 06 knot, preserved in Caledonian blue livery. Starting from Aviemore Speyside Station, not the British Rail Station, the steam train makes its way past the modern village of Dalfaber before curving east through a cutting and steaming out onto a splendid view of the Cairngorms which are seen across the River Spey, then swinging west round a series of curves through woods leading to the village of Boat of Garton. To enable you to enjoy a nostalgic trip through the spectacular scenery of Strathspey, the railway and classic coaches are providing a connecting vintage omnibus service between Aviemore and the Osprey Reserve at Loch Garten via Boat of Garten Station. It takes you on a leisurely journey through the beautiful Abernethy Forest.